Red Bull has sold over 100 billion cans, and it has never manufactured a single one of them. The Austrian billionaire the world credits with inventing it didn't invent it either. The formula was created half a world away in Bangkok by a man born so poor on a duck farm that to this day nobody is completely sure what year he was born. And in Thailand, there's a legend about where his recipe came from. A monk. A sacred formula from a forest temple, they said. A story so persistent his family had to publicly deny it after his death. Because the truth is stranger than the legend. The real origin of Red Bull isn't a monastery, it's a con. One of the most brilliant, most profitable illusions in business history. A trick so good that governments banned the drink and the bans made it richer. So here's the question this whole story hangs on. How do two men take a 10-cent tonic for Thai truck drivers, change almost nothing about it, and turn it into an empire worth more than $20 billion? The answer starts with the man history almost erased. Chapter 1. The Man with 3 Birthdays. When Chaleo Yoovidhya died in Bangkok on March 17, 2012, something odd happened in the obituaries. The Nation, a Thai newspaper, reported he was 90. Other Thai outlets said 88. Forbes had recently listed him as 80, 3 different ages for one of the richest men in Asia, a $5 billion fortune, the 3rd largest in Thailand, and the world's press couldn't agree on when he was born. That's not sloppy journalism. That's what happens when a man is born so far below the record-keeping line that no one wrote it down. What we do know is this. Chaleo was born in Pichit province in rural Thailand, sometime in the 1920s or early 30s, to Chinese immigrant parents who survived by raising ducks and selling fruit. He had almost no formal schooling. He worked the farm as a boy, then took whatever jobs existed, by some accounts, a stint as a bus conductor, before making the move that changes everything. He went to Bangkok to help at his older brother's small chemist shop. And here's where the legend begins. Because the story that spread through Thailand for decades, the one baked into the title of this video, is that the miracle formula that made Chaleo a billionaire came from a monk. A secret tonic recipe, passed from a forest temple into the hands of a humble salesman. It's a beautiful story. It fits a Buddhist country perfectly. There's just one problem. It isn't true. And the person who said so was Chaleo's own son. In an interview with the Bangkok Post, published days after his father's death, Chaleo Yoovidhya dismissed the forest monk story flat out as a myth. The recipe, he admitted, came from somewhere far less mystical, Japan. Hold that thought, because that admission is the key to this entire story. If the origin myth was a fabrication that the family let circulate for decades, what does that tell you about how this company thinks? Keep that question loaded. First, you need to see what Chaleo actually did in that drugstore, because the real story is better than the monk. Chapter 2. The Japanese Secret. In 1962, a Japanese company called Taisho Pharmaceutical launched a small brown medicine bottle called Lipovitan D, a tonic drink loaded with taurine and caffeine, marketed to exhausted salarymen. It is arguably the first modern energy drink, and it made Taisho a fortune. The company became famous as one of the biggest taxpayers in Japan. Licensed copies and imitations spread across Asia, including into Thailand, where tonic drinks became a booming category through the 60s and 70s. Chaleo watched all of it. By the early 1960s, the duck farmer's son had clawed his way from salesman to owner, founding his own small operation, TC Pharmaceutical, in Bangkok, first making antibiotics. And when he studied the tonic drink boom, he noticed something everyone else had missed. The foreign-style tonics were positioned as premium products, aspirational, urban, priced for office workers. But the people who actually needed energy weren't sitting in offices. They were driving trucks through the night on Thailand's highways. They were pouring concrete, cutting sugarcane, working double factory shifts. The customers with the greatest need were the ones nobody was selling to. So, in 1976, Chaleo launched his own tonic, researched and improved, as his son later put it, from the Japanese formula: caffeine, taurine, B vitamins, and a heavy dose of sugar in a squat little amber bottle, uncarbonated and syrupy sweet. He named it after the most powerful animal a Thai laborer could picture: the Krating, the wild gaur, a bovine so massive it can face down a tiger. Krating Daeng, in English, Red Bull. The logo, two Red Bulls charging head-on in front of a blazing sun, was designed to mean one thing to a man loading a truck at 4 in the morning: strength. And then Chaleo did the thing that decades later, an Austrian marketing man would be called a genius for. He didn't really sell a drink. He sold an identity. He priced it at 10 baht, cheap enough for a farmhand, and remarkably, the family held that price for the next 36 years. He skipped Bangkok's crowded market and went upcountry first, straight to the provinces. And instead of advertising, he sponsored Muay Thai, Thai boxing, the sport of the working class, putting those charging bulls above the ring where laborers watched fighters bleed for a way out of poverty. Within roughly 2 years, Krating Daeng was the best-selling energy tonic in Thailand. The formula wasn't the secret. The story was. Remember that, because the man about to walk into this story is going to be credited with inventing that exact playbook. Chapter 3, The Jet-Lagged Toothpaste Salesman. In the summer of 1982, a 40-year-old Austrian stepped off a plane in Bangkok, wrecked by jet lag. His name was Dietrich Mateschitz, and on paper he was nobody's idea of a future billionaire. He'd taken about a decade to finish his marketing degree in Vienna. He was a middle-aged executive selling toothpaste, international marketing director for a brand called Blendax, living in airports, and by his own later accounts, thoroughly sick of it. In a Bangkok hotel, he did what traveling businessmen across Asia did. He drank one of the local tonics, Krating Daeng, and his jet lag vanished. Most people would have ordered another bottle and forgotten about it, but Mateschitz had seen a number that wouldn't leave his head. He'd come across business reporting on Japan's top taxpayers, and near the very top sat Taisho, the maker of Lipovitan D, a tonic drink company out-earning industrial giants. Sitting in that hotel, feeling the caffeine and taurine hit his bloodstream, Mateschitz connected the two facts. The most profitable product category he'd ever encountered didn't exist at all in the West. There was one more coincidence, almost too perfect. The tired toothpaste salesman had been distributing Blendax products in Asia through local partners, and one of the licensees connected to his world was the very company behind the drink in his hand, Chaleo's TC Pharmaceutical. So in 1984, at the old Siam Intercontinental Hotel in Bangkok, Mateschitz pitched the reclusive Thai tycoon a partnership: take Krating Daeng to Europe. By Mateschitz's own telling years later in the Bangkok Post, Chaleo was skeptical. He had reason to be. A foreign salesman wanted his family recipe. But Chaleo's son Chalerm was pushing the family to look abroad, worried that Thai health authorities, who regulated the tonic like a medicine, might one day restrict it at home. The deal they struck is one of the most consequential handshakes of the 20th century. Each man put in $500,000, reportedly Mateschitz' entire life savings. Each took 49% of a new Austrian company, Red Bull, and the final 2% went to Chaleo's son, Chalerm. Read that structure again, because most people miss it. 49, 49, and 2 held by the Thai side. The Yoovidhya family walked away, controlling 51% of Red Bull. The Austrian who would become the global face of the brand, the man everyone calls the founder of Red Bull, was the junior partner. He always was. So why does the whole world think Mateschitz built this empire? Because of what he did next. And this is where the con begins. Chapter 4. There is no market for Red Bull. Mateschitz spent 3 years adapting the product for the West, carbonating it, cutting the sweetness, designing a slim, tall, silver and blue can that looked like nothing else on the shelf, and grinding through Austria's Ministry of Health to get a brand new substance category approved. Then, before launch, he did the responsible thing. He commissioned professional market research. The results were a massacre. Testers called the color unappetizing. They described the taste, and this word appears in the actual case study record, as disgusting. The research firm concluded the product was, in effect, a total failure. And here is the moment that separates Dietrich Mateschitz from every other marketing executive of his generation. He looked at the same data and saw one detail everyone else ignored. The responses weren't lukewarm. Half the testers hated it, but half loved it. His reaction, in his own words, "You can't beat ambivalence." Polarization, he realized, isn't failure. Polarization is free publicity with a pulse. And so, in April 1987, he uttered the sentence that defines this whole empire. "There is no market for Red Bull, but we will create one." On April 1st, 1987, April Fool's Day fittingly, Red Bull went on sale in Austria. And Mateschitz' masterstroke was realizing he couldn't out-advertise Coca-Cola, so he wouldn't advertise at all. Not conventionally. Instead, he priced the drink at roughly double a Coke, a working man's tonic repositioned overnight as a premium product, because a high price is itself a message. This must do something. He hired the most popular students he could find as student brand managers, paid them to throw parties, and sent Minis and Beetles with giant cans bolted to the roof, cruising past beaches, gyms, and campuses. And then there's the most infamous tactic of all. The story goes that Red Bull crews seeded empty cans in club bathrooms and overflowing bins around nightlife districts, so that a city would wake up believing everyone was already drinking it. Red Bull has never exactly confirmed that one. It may be part myth. But notice what that means. Even the stories about Red Bull's marketing are marketing. Because Mateschitz' darkest genius was this: he weaponized rumor itself. Whispers spread that the taurine came from bull testicles, that the formula was borderline illegal, that it was liquid speed in a can. A conventional company would have panicked and issued denials. Red Bull let the rumors run. The company even eventually put up a web page cataloging the myths, which of course just spread them further. And then governments walked straight into the trap. France refused to authorize the drink in 1996, citing taurine concerns. Denmark and Norway kept it out too. Every ban made headlines. Every headline said the same thing to a teenager. This drink is so powerful, entire countries are afraid of it. France held out for 12 years, fighting the European Commission all the way to the European Court of Justice in 2004. Before finally relenting in July 2008, when Reuters reported the ban lifted because no definite health risk could ever be proven. 12 years of the best advertising money literally cannot buy. Red Bull swept Germany and the UK in 1994, hit the United States through California in the late 90s, and conquered the student, the club kid, and the office worker, all with a drink whose own market research said it was disgusting. That is the con, not a lie about the liquid, a masterpiece of manufactured belief around it. And if this story is doing to your brain what taurine does to a truck driver, take 1 second and hit subscribe. Business Absolute exists for exactly these stories, and the next chapter is where this company stops selling drinks entirely. Chapter 5. The company that doesn't make anything. Here's the fact from the top of this video, the one that sounds impossible. Red Bull has sold over 100 billion cans and manufactures none of them. Production is outsourced, famously concentrated with a partner bottler in the Austrian Alps, along with logistics and distribution. While Coca-Cola and Pepsi poured fortunes into bottling infrastructure, Red Bull kept only 2 things in-house: the brand and the stories. Mateschitz reportedly put around 1/3 of revenues back into marketing in the growth years. an unheard-of ratio, because he understood what Red Bull actually was. Not a beverage company, a myth factory that monetizes through aluminum. Look at what the money built. In 2004, Red Bull bought the Jaguar Formula One team. By 2005, it was Red Bull Racing, and a year later, Mateschitz bought a second team outright. Football clubs in Salzburg, New York, and Leipzig. Cliff diving, air races, flug tag, a festival where people fling homemade flying machines off piers. In 2007, it launched Red Bull Media House, its own media empire, producing films and magazines and footage it hands to broadcasters for free, because every second of it is an advertisement that television stations pay to air. The lines between the company, the athletes, and the events are blurred on purpose. It is all, in Mateschitz's own framing, one giant image campaign. And on October 14th, 2012, the myth factory reached its logical conclusion. It left the planet. Red Bull Stratos. Austrian skydiver Felix Baumgartner rode a helium balloon to the edge of space, around 128,000 feet, and stepped off. He fell for over 4 minutes, hit a peak speed of 843 miles per hour, and became the first human to break the sound barrier in free fall. More than 8 million people watched the YouTube live stream simultaneously, a record at the time. The program reportedly cost Red Bull on the order of $30 million, and analysts estimated the media exposure was worth many multiples of that. Sales jumped in the months that followed. And here's the detail that proves the whole thesis. At no point in the broadcast did anyone say "Buy Red Bull." They didn't need to. The logo was on the capsule, the suit, the balloon, and the story was on every front page on Earth. A man fell from space, and the company's slogan, "It gives you wings," became, for 4 minutes and 19 seconds, literally true. But while 8 million people were watching a man fall from the stratosphere, almost nobody noticed that the man who started it all had already left the story. And the way he left is the strangest part of all. Chapter 6. The Invisible Billionaire. Chaleo Yoovidhya never saw Stratos. He had died 7 months earlier, that March of 2012, and he died the way he had lived, invisible. For roughly the last 30 years of his life, the co-owner of one of the most famous brands on the planet gave essentially no interviews, no profiles, almost no photographs. While Mateschitz bought fighter jets and a South Pacific island, Chaleo stayed in Bangkok, quietly presiding over TC Pharmaceutical, keeping Krating Daeng at 10 baht, so the farmhands and drivers who built him could still afford it. His son said Chaleo's philosophy was that no matter how rich the family became, they couldn't truly live while the people around them had no chance to improve their lives. The loudest brand on earth was half owned by one of the quietest men in business, and the empire he left behind is staggering. The Yoovidhya family still controls 51% of the Red Bull company, a business that by 2023 was selling over 12 billion cans a year across more than 170 countries, with revenues north of 10 billion euros. Forbes has ranked the family Thailand's richest, with an estimated fortune of over $36 billion by 2025. Mateschitz's own stake made him Austria's richest man, a fortune estimated around $20 billion and beyond until his death in October 2022. 2 men, 1 handshake, $500,000 each. It might be the greatest return on $1 million in modern history. It should end there. A duck farmer's son and a toothpaste salesman, both dying rich and beloved. But this is business absolute, and empires built on myth have a way of colliding with reality. Because in September 2012, the same year Chaleo died, 1 month before Stratos, a Ferrari came screaming down a Bangkok street at dawn. And what happened next would put the family name in headlines they couldn't control for the first time in 50 years. Chapter 7. The Myth Meets the Morning. On September 3, 2012, A Bangkok police sergeant major named Wichan Klanprasert was on motorcycle patrol when a gray Ferrari struck him and dragged him down the road, killing him. The car didn't stop. Police followed a trail of fluid from the scene to the gate of a family compound, the Yoovidhya estate. The driver was identified as Chaleo Yoovidhya, known as Boss, one of Chaleo's grandsons, then in his 20s. What followed became one of the most infamous justice sagas in modern Thai history. Court dates were missed, his lawyers citing reasons that ranged from illness to overseas business. Charges lapsed one by one as statutes of limitations expired. In 2017, as prosecutors finally moved, Yoovidhya left Thailand on a private jet days before an arrest warrant, and photographs later surfaced of him living the international high life. Then, in July 2020, prosecutors announced the last major charge was being dropped, and Thailand erupted. The hashtag calling for a boycott of Red Bull products trended nationwide. The public outcry was so fierce, the Prime Minister's office ordered the case re-examined and new charges were pursued. To this day, the case remains a byword in Thailand for two-tiered justice, and the family's Thai businesses spent years distancing themselves, pointing out that the Austrian Red Bull company is a separate entity, which is technically true. And also, after everything you've just watched, the most Red Bull sentence imaginable, even in scandal, the empire's structure meant the brand itself barely felt a scratch. Because that's the uncomfortable final power of what these two men built. The myth is now stronger than any fact. Bans couldn't kill it. Disgusted taste testers couldn't kill it. Even a scandal that enraged an entire nation couldn't meaningfully dent the silver and blue can. So what, in the end, was the product, the finale, the real formula? Go back to the beginning, the legend of the monk, the sacred recipe from the forest temple. Chaleo's family could have killed that story anytime they wanted. For decades, they didn't. And once you've seen the whole arc, you understand why. A tonic reverse-engineered from a Japanese medicine bottle is a product. A formula from a monk is a myth. And this company has never once, in 50 years, on 2 continents, sold a product. That's the reframe that makes the whole story snap into focus. Dietrich Mateschitz is remembered as the marketing genius who conjured a market out of nothing. There is no market for Red Bull, but we will create one. But he didn't invent that playbook. He inherited it. Chaleo Yoovidhya had already proven, a decade earlier, and for 10 baht a bottle, that you don't sell caffeine and sugar. You sell strength to a man who has none left, aspiration above a Muay Thai ring, and identity in an amber bottle. Mateschitz's genius was recognizing a genius, taking the exact same illusion, changing the costume from a charging bull over a boxing ring to a man falling from space and selling it to the entire world at double the price. The failed monk never existed, but he was never the point. The point is that 100 billion times over, people didn't buy a drink. They bought a story. And it worked so well that even the story about where the story came from was a story. And if you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of viewer we make these for. Subscribe to Business Absolute, because the next myth we're taking apart is already in production. The can is empty. The legend never will be.